Hi, and welcome back to SPE Live and this broadcast, Mature Fields in Brazil, Opportunities and Technologies. We will shortly be joined by leaders from Brazil's oil and gas community. Brazil has a long history of oil and gas operations offshore and onshore, where many of these assets can now be classed as mature fields. With recent announcements on repositioning and divestment by Petrobras, these mature fields can be considered an immense opportunity waiting to be tapped. In this SP Live, we will hear directly from some of Brazil's leading operators about the road ahead, the technologies, innovations, operational excellence needed to maximize value and recovery, and the challenges to be addressed. My name is Niels Kolkson-Low. It's my great pleasure to be your host today. If you're new to SP Live, check us out on social media, #SPE Live, or find us on SPE.org. And you can enjoy all of our content there for free at your leisure. Now, let us meet our guests. So joining us first is Dr. Décio Fabricio Oddone da Costa, CEO of Enauta. So prior to taking up his CEO position, he was CEO of Petrobras Bolivia, Chairman and CEO of Petrobras Energia, Vice President of Braskem, and General Director of the National Agency of Petroleum, Natural Gas and Biofuels, ANP, in Brazil. He is joined by Francilmar Fernandes, CEO of Petrorio. Mr. Francilmar has held several positions within Petrorio, including well engineering, drilling manager, and operations manager, and has extensive experience, particularly in mature field operations, notably the successful workover campaign in 2016 and the later drilling campaign in 2018 in the Polvo field. And joining our gentleman is Maria Clara Costa, Petroleum Technology IOR Manager at Equinor. Ms. Maria Clara has nearly 9 years at Equinor Brazil, specializing in reservoir engineering, then later becoming leader of reservoir management and IOR, later again leader for reservoir technology, and now Petroleum Technology IOR Manager in the Roncador partnership with Petrobras. Décio, Maria Clara, welcome to SPE Live. It's a real pleasure to have you here today. Thank you for making the time for talking with us today. So,
thank you.
Thank you. Mature fields in Brazil, the opportunities they present and the technologies, partnerships, strategies, policies to make these opportunities successful. A big topic, also the focus for the forthcoming SPE virtual workshop on tapping mature fields opportunities in Brazil. That was in the introduction, and more on that at the end of the program for the audience. And just a reminder to our audience, fingers on buzzers and keyboards, a unique opportunity to ask these great leaders from Brazil, oil and gas, what your thoughts and questions are around mature fields and oil and gas in Brazil. So please post your questions, we'll be watching. So let us open up and explore a little bit about more mature fields in Brazil. So Dr. Décio, Enauta, long-time operator in Brazil, what for you are the opportunities and also some of the challenges for mature field developments in Brazil?
Thanks, Niels. It's a pleasure to be here with you and all SPE community to discuss about the mature fields in Brazil. What we are living now is a kind of second wave of opportunities for independent companies in Brazil. The first one happened about 10 years ago when we had the opportunity for companies to acquire exploration blocks in license rounds in Brazil. I would say that Enauta is a survival for this process, a company that was public 10 years ago. And what we are seeing now is a kind of second wave of opportunities. We are living in a moment in which we see two big transformations. Energy transition is causing portfolio management changes in some of the largest companies in the world, international oil companies. And also in Brazil, Petrobras is divesting for the first time, divesting heavily of mature fields. So for the first time, we see that companies operating in Brazil, they have the opportunity to develop a very balanced and diversified portfolio, not only investing in exploration, as used to be in the past, but also having the chance to develop a portfolio with mature fields on production, some field zone development, like we have in Atlanta, in Enauta, and some exploration to generate additional value. I see mature fields as a huge opportunity in Brazil. We have a very low recovery factor in our onshore and deep water fields, average 24% of the end of life. World average is 35. In countries like UK and Norway, we see fields with numbers close to 50% sometimes. So there is enormous room for opportunity in this regard. And I would say that Enauta is particularly and uniquely positioned to develop the most balanced portfolio in all independents operating in Brazil. If we acquire mature fields, combining with the development Atlanta and with our exploratory blocks.
Thank you, Décio. Thank you very much. So you mentioned there the opportunity to develop balanced and diversified portfolios. Francilmar, you have a field portfolio, Enauta and Petrorio. So what do you see are the opportunities and deciding technologies and challenges for Brazil in this market?
Hi, Niels. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for SPE for the invitation. Well, Brazil nowadays, there are many opportunities for mature fields. We have dozens and dozens of fields that are just ready to change off the hands of the major and super major to independent oil companies. And Petrorio just started this journey 5 years ago, and we are just collecting very good results since there. We have many opportunities for use of focus in mature fields, to use new technologies, to use new ways to produce with lower cost and with more high operational efficiency. One technology that we just start to keep a focus is digitalization. We need to put more energy in this way to increase our efficiency and so on. So we have many subjects to discuss here in this talk here. Thank you.
Thank you, Francilmar. Thank you very much. Clara, Equinor, perhaps a unique technology perspective on mature field development. Décio mentioned this earlier in terms of the recovery factors in Norway. What are your thoughts?
Thanks for the question, Niels, and thanks SPE for the invitation. As Décio already mentioned, we are all seeing a fundamental change in the industry faster than ever before, especially since last year. And the energy transition and the need for low carbon future is posing new ways of working, new ways of thinking, especially for the mature fields, and that's not different in Brazil. So we see in Equinor these challenges as actually opportunities to shape and improve the energy industry of tomorrow. We aim to set an example of how the oil and gas industry must develop, and also show the leadership and point a way to bolder and better solutions. That's why we are actively shaping our portfolio to deliver high value and low carbon footprint. So we have our experience in Equinor that the work that we do developing and operating these mature fields comes from more than 40 years of experience of collaboration and integration, looking for new solutions and developing technologies in the Norwegian continental shelf, where Equinor has started. We have good experience. I can mention one example from Statfjord. As Décio was mentioning, the recovery factor is very low in Brazil, but we see in Norway, actually the average we have on plans for our fields is 50% from Equinor, and we have the ambition to reach 60%. And actually, this field that I mentioned, Statfjord, already achieved 70% of recovery from the original oil in place. And especially in this field that's quite mature, that's already 40 years of production. And it's interesting that in the beginning, no one thought it would be a good field to be developed. it's already being extended, the lifetime. The commissioning plan was to 2022 and is already extended up to 2027 or even further with the other two platforms to 2040. That's the ambition we have. And keeping the production level that we have today until 2025 and beyond, and also reducing the CO2 intensity. That's one of the things that we see. It's really important that we change our mindsets toward the carbon footprint.
Thank you, Maria Clara. So yeah, you mentioned there the need for high value assets and low carbon footprint in particular. So Francilmar, we've talked a little bit about some of the technologies needed. What other innovations, operational excellence are needed to maximize value, maximize recovery, do you think?
Well, Niels, for mature field, we really need more and more technology in all the areas. Since the well construction, we need more productive per well with a lowest cost possible per well. Maybe multilaterals, maybe more directional drilling tools without pilot holes and so on. From going to the topside system with more sensor, with more IoTs to reduce the POB on board, and so on and so forth. So we have many opportunities. But the point, or the critical point, is we have the right technology with the right price. It has to be economically feasible.
Thank you, Francilmar. Décio, do you want to add to that at all? What are your thoughts around the innovations needed? You're on mute. Décio, you need to unmute yourself.
I apologize. I was saying that we are in the middle of the beginning of enormous transformation, technology transformation. All this big data, digitalization, as Francilmar has mentioned, artificial intelligence, this will change the way we drill and the way we collect data and the way we produce oil fields. And I'm quite sure that those recovery factors that we heard often, Maria Clara saying, they are currently being achieved in Norway. They will be also the numbers that we will have as goals in Brazil in the years to come. So it's amazing, and we will get there.
Thank you, Décio. So I'm actually going to pick up an audience question here because it's related to what we're just talking about here in terms of innovation. So a question from YouTube from Fabiana Bertoni. How are companies dealing with risk management of their assets for mature fields? So what are your strategies considering the cost-saving necessities? Décio, you want to start with this?
Yes, and well, we have different types of risk. I mean, we can deal with safety risks, environmental risks, and commercial risks. Safety and environmental risks are values for companies like ours. We have to have them completely understood and completely mitigated. But we must be prepared to run the commercial risks. And in order to do that, we must be competitive. We must take care of our costs. And we must be, in some ways, aggressive in order to reduce those costs and to control the risks that we face.
Thank you. Francilmar, what are your thoughts around that sort of question there in terms of strategies?
Yeah, a good point. Well, the risk is one big part of our business, right? But the point here is with the right management system and taking care about our assets, we can keep producing for a long time. We have good examples in the Gulf of Mexico and even in the regional continental shelf that platforms that are producing from during 30-40 years. So there is no problem there. Putting the correct maintenance system and the management system to keep all the risk under control, we can go very long time.
Thank you. Maria Clara, I think you have some really interesting viewpoints around this on the strategy side, for example, and the cost savings necessities. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a very important thing to think about reducing costs, especially when we need to deal with mature fields, put more wells. As for instance, the example I used with Statfjord, there is a plan to drill 100 new wells still in Statfjord. So this, of course, is related to managing the risk of keeping the production up to longer, and also on thinking about changing the old wells for new wells, and then increasing recovery, increasing the production, and reducing the carbon footprint. Also, one important thing that's also related to this digital transformation that we are living is about having a good way of keeping track of what's going offshore. And then that's one of the things that we have done in Equinor since 2019. We have two operation centers that handle from shore the offshore work. So we have the IOC, that's the Integrated Operations Center, and also the GOC, that's the Geo Operations Center. They have the mission of streamline production, prevent the downtime, reinforce the safety, and also reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, all done remotely. And one of the things about this, my friend João Magalhães will be presenting a little bit more about that in the upcoming mature fields opportunities in Brazil, the workshop that SPE is proposing for the 15th of March. So if you want to learn a little bit more, I recommend you to check on it.
Thank you, Maria Clara. Yeah, excellent comment there. Yes, thank you. Continuing on that note about recovery costs, I mean, they are a real reality in oil and gas, and in particular with mature assets. You know, we're looking at trying to maximize recovery at lowest cost. What are your thoughts around government regulation, fiscal incentives, new service approaches, risk sharing? How can that assist in reducing cost and improving efficiencies? Décio, what's your perspective on that?
Well, I believe in, and I couldn't think in a different way, that we have made a lot of progress in Brazil in the past few years. The government and the agency, they put in place a series of measures that helped the industry to operate in these mature fields. Initially, and most important, Petrobras is divesting mature fields, and they have neglected for decades. And that's a huge opportunity, it has been said already. And then a series of measures that the government took in the agencies I mentioned in the past few years, but it's still some room to improve the regulation. But I think that the main issues have been already addressed, and now I would say that we have the conditions in Brazil for the independent operators to come and to take over this mature fields.
Thank you. That's reassuring to hear. Francilmar, do you share that opinion? You know, do you see that also, that Brazil's turned that corner, has improved its regulation and allowing the growth of independents like yourselves?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's clear that we have been improving a lot since in the last years, and now we still have a big space to improve. And in my point of view, there are some specific points that we're going to create a big value for this niche for mature fields. For example, it's very critical or a strategy. We use the infrastructure that we have producing. For example, the near field exploration, all the areas surrounding a current production field, we can take advantage to reduce the cost to produce that oil. So we're gonna add value for the current field that are producing, and add value for unlock, I would say, a new field. So we still have to promote and this way here in Brazil. And we have a big problem that the pre-salt province, it's very, very big area. It's cover all the Campos and Santos bases. So should be good if we can work on that and unlock this potential for the future.
Niels, let me complement, please.
Please, yes.
I think the most important matter is, as Francilmar said, is the authorization to include blocks, especially some commercial discoveries on the pre-salt province, in this new regime that was established by the agency called permanent offers, a kind of regime in which companies they select the blocks they want to see in an auction. These discussions is not a new one. This has been already approved by the National Council for Energy Policy, but it has never been published, the resolution. And I think that when the government authorized companies to go for small discoveries in the neighborhood of the fields they operate now, we can see an improvement in production, especially in the Campos Basin.
Yeah, thank you, Décio. That's an important point to bring across there, and also echoing what Francilmar was saying about sort of developing these satellite fields. And that's something Equinor has a lot of experience in from the North Sea. So, Maria Clara, you want to sort of build on that comment a little bit?
Yes, you said right. We do have a lot of experience in Norway by bringing some fields to be developed with existing platforms that are in place for other fields. So that's one thing that we haven't seen yet in Brazil, and especially thinking about mature fields, that could trigger that the existing platforms will survive for more years and could be refurbished, for instance, and we could create hubs. That's a very important thing. One of the work that we have now in Equinor in Brazil is a partnership with Petrobras in Roncador. That's one of the things that could, for instance, be used, that we find other fields to tie into the existing platforms. Yeah. So I guess for the pre-salt, as is so different place, it requires different type of topsides that may be more difficult to happen, but still is worth to look on. Yeah, so we have a lot of existing facilities that we could reuse and tie in. That's from Norway, for instance, we do use some templates subsea that we tie into existing facilities on top sides. That's and even with different partners, that is a very important thing, because we see Petrobras manages a lot of different fields in Brazil, but we do have a lot of new players coming in, and we can use these partnerships to propose new solutions for those mature fields with great hubs of production.
Thank you, Maria Clara. So on this note of technology, so we've been talking about kind of new technology innovations that can help in these mature fields. So we mentioned multilateral wells, horizontal wells, subsea tiebacks, adding value. There was a question earlier about subsea separation technologies. Can they assist? So I'm wondering, you know, there's a subsurface question around sort of improving recovery, and there's also a sort of topside question in terms of reducing costs. So you have these aging facilities, so how do you sort of upgrade them to sort of support more digital type technologies, automation and that sort of thing? So first of all, a question to Décio and Francilmar. Where do you think is the best place to invest money? Is it subsurface or is it topside facilities? Where do you see that in your companies? Décio?
Oh, I think that we'll see a combination. We must take care of subsurface, we must take care of subsea equipment, and also the platforms and support systems. And that's a problem that must be faced in different ways and different approaches. We do not have the right to let something behind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just add that well, in the end of the day, which is really important to keep the the field producing economically is the lifting cost. So for the lifting cost, we have to work to increase the production and the subsurface and reservoir works and using EOR, IOR, all the initiatives that we can put on more wells and multilateral wells in field and so on and so forth. But it's also very, very important to reduce the producing cost. Yeah. So with that, we're going to have more resilient field.
Thank you. Yeah, resiliency is very important. Maria Clara, so obviously Equinor's approach is going to be a little different given its history in Norway. So do you want to comment around this sort of strategy piece? You know, where should focus be, topside, subsurface?
I would say it's a very similar experience, and actually, especially on reducing costs, we do have a lot of contribution on that for this IOR, for the recovery that we have reached these good standards. So we have already reduced the cost of wells by 30%, and we have the ambition to reduce, for instance, on the Norwegian continental shelf, I'm talking, to up to 45%. And that's something that we see as a big enabler, as we see the main driver for increasing recovery is really putting more wells down to the reservoir. And if we don't reduce the cost, then we will not manage that. Going on the operations cost, I do agree. We also need to work on that. And so to have good maintenance plans and also to think of strategies for the equipments, that's very important. Yeah, so it's all combined. Is both the surface and the subsurface need to work together, and that's one of the strengths I think in Equinor is about the collaboration that we have among all the disciplines, everybody working together to find the best solutions, to find to solve the challenges together. But and it's good that we can challenge each other as well, thinking about new possibilities, thinking about new solutions. That's really work together.
Thank you, Maria Clara. I'm just going to pick up a question here on a related thing from the audience again. So Claudio Salguero on YouTube. So speaking to this is each company has a specific strategy on mature field recovery and production improvement. So you each have different portfolios. So how much knowledge sharing is there and between, say, the three companies, and how much difference in strategy is there based on your different portfolios, if you understand the question? Décio, let's start with you. What do you see as, is it very different? Is it a lot of sharing of knowledge, experience?
Oh, I clearly see that the three companies, they have different strategies. Equinor is a large company, a large, long experience in mature fields, and now transition the portfolio in direction to renewables. Petrorio has concentrated their operations in Campos Basin and has been very successful in this regard. And Enauta was a survivor for the first wave of companies that went public in Brazil about 10 years ago. Initially starting investing in exploration because exploration was the only opportunity available at that time, and now has the opportunity to combine exploration with the development of our Atlanta field and the acquisition of mature fields. If and when we do that, I believe we will be well positioned to have the most diversified portfolio among the independent companies operating in Brazil. And some of the companies, they are members of the IBP, Brazilian Institute of Petroleum and Natural Gas. And in IBP companies, they share, they contribute, and they teach and they learn with each other. I think that IBP is the main lever for industry knowledge experiences to be shared in Brazil, in addition to some initiative that we have with other companies in order to optimize our lifting costs, as Francilmar has said.
Thank you, Décio. Thank you. Francilmar, do you want to add to that? And what's your perspective around that? Strategies, portfolios.
Yeah, sure. Of course, that each company has our specific strategy. There are some are more specific. For example, in our case, Petrorio, it's 100% focused on mature fields. It's our business. Saying that we have to put our efforts, and we use like IBP, like SPE. This area here is a very good example to share the technology and experience. And the things is that we have to go ahead. We cannot do it alone. We need more partnership since the other operators, for the vendors, all the supply chain, the society in general, to go ahead and unlock all this potential in Brazil that we have for mature fields.
Thank you. Maria Clara, so slightly technical angle to the same question around strategies. Is the low recovery factor in some of the Brazilian mature fields, is that technical, is it geological? Where are the sticking points? There's a question from Richard Norris on YouTube earlier about the low recovery factors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very good question. My personal view is that it's somehow because our fields are not so mature yet. So we haven't reached yet a high recovery, but we do have the possibility of increasing recovery from those fields. Yes, and I will mention again the partnership we have with Petrobras in Roncador that really aims to improve the recovery of this field that's currently about 28%, and we have the ambition of reaching 40%. So that's one of the challenges that we have in Brazil, is because of a lot of what's done in Brazil is on deep water. So increasing the cost, increasing the challenges to develop the fields. It's about like reducing, as we are saying, reducing the cost, reducing how much we spend in each of those fields. Then we need to work together, as I mentioned, collaborate. We can use more of the techniques that, for instance, are very well used in Norway with 4D seismic, for instance, for then managing the reservoir. Also on the water management, I can mention that we are working now on a polymer evaluation for Peregrino, for instance. So all of these combine the technology with finding better solutions with low cost, with a good break-even, low carbon. That's really what we want to do, and what we need to do towards increasing recovery in Brazil.
Thank you, Maria Clara. Now, just to sort of round us off here, so question here really, we've been talking about partnerships and sharing knowledge and that sort of thing. So the workshop that's coming up on mature fields in Brazil later on is part of that knowledge sharing. But Francilmar and Décio, from the Brazilian perspective, how much, Brazil has a very proud technology history and done remarkable things with oil and gas technology. So, a strong academic environment. How much can Brazil do alone, and how much does it need to bring in international experience to sort of help build the business around mature fields? Décio.
Well, I started my career in Petrobras almost 40 years ago, drilling the first deep water fields in Albacora and Marlim and these fields that changed the history of oil and gas in Brazil. And the lesson that we learned since then is that we must work with the others. After the oil crisis in the 70s, the industry was pushed into offshore. And I like to say that going offshore was the moon trip for our industry. It forced us to go after technology, and going after technology demands integration, cooperation, discussion, and what Petrobras did, and did it very well, and I'm proud to be part of that during that period, was to congregate technology, information, and intelligence from different companies, from different institutions, and from different countries. So that's what we have seen, and that's the way that our industry has developed, and that's the way I believe we will develop better technologies to increase our recovery factor in Brazil.
Excellent comments. Thank you, Décio. Francilmar, do you want to sort of add to that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, actually, we need help. We just started a new market in Brazil. I would say that 10 years ago, we did not have this new market for mature fields in Brazil with independent oil company, which is much more dynamic and flexible and so on. Now we have to work together with the academy, with all these innovation centers, and we have been starting this process. But most important for that, it's also work with the suppliers and vendors to unlock project. I would say that some of them is very small prospect with small oil volume, but we have to unlock and put in production these assets. So only working together we can do it.
Thank you. Maria Clara, your final comments around this, that partnership, knowledge sharing.
Yes, yeah, partnership or collaboration, as I say, is very important, is really key for enabling us to develop better solutions for the mature fields. One of the things also is about learning from what's good in other places. So as I mentioned, Norway is a good example, UK as well. And in there, the agencies have done a lot of work together with the operators, and that's one of the things, as you mentioned, that has been doing good as well in Brazil in the late years, that we work together really to enable that we get more out of those reservoirs, to enable also that the existing facilities can be extended for a longer period, and then we get a better solution for everybody, not only for the operations, but also for the government and for the entire society. It's really value added to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We're out of time, so Décio, Francilmar, Maria Clara, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and knowledge on the mature fields in Brazil. It's an exciting time for Brazil. There's a very bright future for Brazil, I think, around mature assets. So thank you for sharing your thoughts and insights. It's been very, very interesting. Thank you. And thank you to the audience. You've been great with all your questions and comments, so thank you very much. Now, if you are like me and still hungry to learn more about Brazilian field operations, then please check out the upcoming Untapping Mature Fields SPE virtual workshop that will be next week on your screen. So check that out. More information on that at the end of the program. And also, hot on the heels of this SPE Live, SPE Brazil section is having its Tech Tuesday, so Advanced Field Management for Production Optimization. So if you jump across to the YouTube channel and search SPE Brazil section, you will find the links to that upcoming tech talk. It's coming up on the hour, so you have time to grab some coffee and then settle in for another great talk there. So once again, Décio, Maria Clara, Francilmar, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you for your time. It's been excellent talking to all of you. Thank you, and I wish you a very pleasant evening in Brazil. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to our audience, and thank you to the SPE Foundation for making this production possible and all SPE Lives possible. And also thank you once again to Asha, our producer, for doing all the magic behind the screen. Thanks, guys. Have a great day, and see you soon.